Palestinian Table.
Food is more than just sustenance. Food is emotion, it's family, it's love. It tells a story of a people over generations. For Palestinians in particular, given the political problems that we have, food also becomes a way to hold on to our cultural identity, to show our history throughout time, and it ends up carrying more weight for us than it might for the average culture, even though food across cultures has always been a way for people to maintain their sense of connection to who they are and to transfer their culture from one generation to the next. I was born in Jerusalem, but my parents are actually from two different parts of the country. My father is from the north, and he's a Christian, and my mother is from the central part of the country, and she's a Muslim. So I grew up with a big melting pot, so to speak, of experiences and holidays and cooking, but all of them things that I really took for granted. I didn't think of them as anything special or unique. But then at 17, I left Jerusalem to start university in the US. I was packing my bags one day, getting ready to leave, and my mother walked into my room. And she had bags and bags of food, za'atar, ifriq, mlukhiyya. And I looked at her like, what do you think? I'm going to starve in the US? But she insisted, and I took with me a small bottle of olive oil and a jar of za'atar. And even though I tease her about it, I'm actually very glad I did, because soon after I arrived, I actually felt quite homesick. And I missed, our life, the way we lived, the things we did. And I remember I would sometimes just open up that bag of za'atar and just smell it without eating it. And I would feel like I was back in her kitchen again. That was the first time I really felt how powerful food can be. I did my undergrad, I went straight on to business school, and from there I went on to work in consulting. But throughout that whole time, I would often call my mother, my grandmothers, my aunts, and I would ask for recipes. And when I had time, I would cook and replicate these things, and I never thought to do anything with them. And it was only a few years ago when my first daughter was born and I took a short break from work that I guess a part of me panicked. I thought, my daughter is going to grow up very differently from the way I did, where food was such an important part of who we are and of our cultural identity. And one of the reasons I felt so attached to being Palestinian, attached to my family, and I wanted her to have a piece of that. I started at that point going back through all the recipes I'd been collecting over the years, and I thought just to compile something for her and eventually for my second daughter, who I was pregnant with at the time. I looked at everything I had gotten together, the recipes and the family anecdotes, and I thought, okay, these are the stories of my family and these are our recipes, but in a way they're the story of every Palestinian family. And they tell a narrative that is different from the one we are so used to hearing about Palestinians. And if I can share this narrative with the world, then maybe it will serve as a bridge for people to better understand us. And I think from there, the idea for this book was born. Every single recipe comes with a head note that's either an anecdote or a historical excerpt about where this recipe comes from. One of the first chapters, I put a very basic, simple recipe of fried eggs with summa and za'atar. But for me, this recipe is what my father makes for me for breakfast whenever I am back home. So this really reminds me of growing up as a child. And this is actually the same copper pan that my grandmother used to make her eggs in. My daughters are 2 and 4. They have za'atar and olive oil for breakfast every morning. And I think they're too young to grasp the concept of what this means, but I hope when they grow up, they will remember this as something that was so inherently tied to who they are and their upbringing, and they will always feel close and connected to their Palestinian culture.